You're good to go?
Got it. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Talk to Danielle podcast. I am your host, Danielle C. Baker. And before we get started today, I do want to mention that this is new this season. This episode is brought to you by the wonderful Self-Esteem Doctor and the Self-Esteem Doctor Academy. The wonderful Dr. Simone Alicia does wonders to work on confidence, self-esteem, not only for children, but for teenagers and adults as well. So I invite you to go and check out the Self-Esteem Academy online. And I'll add the link on there as well so you can see wonderful resources to help your children build their self-esteem and their confidence, and little tips for the parents as well. So today I have a wonderful guest. I'm so excited to have her on. And I know I say that all the time, but this one really does. It's like a little passion of mine with writing. And I have the wonderful Sally Lotz with me. Thank you, Sally, for joining me today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And I guess we could jump right in. And if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and tell your story and how you get to where you are today.
Well, it's funny that you're starting to talk about self-confidence, because a lot of what I do actually started with the lack of self-confidence. But I'm a children's author. So that means I write for kids anywhere from children who read picture books all the way up to young adult, which is age 18. I am a writing/book coach. So I help people tell their stories and get them written. And I am a mentor for writers, helping them sometimes get through the struggles. Where'd I come from? That's a that's a long story, but I grew up in a cult, actually, which is my starting story. And my creative spirit and education was not something that was pushed or encouraged. In fact, it was strongly discouraged. And so for me to become a writer and be creative and come out of that is a big win.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And then on top of that, because this is the self-confidence part, I was also a child, and I am still an adult, with ADHD and dyslexia. And I chose a career with writing.
Right. That's just
kind of weird, it's a small challenge, but I make it work. Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Yeah. That is incredible. I learned a lot about you today. I didn't know about that. And I like that you mentioned that, because a lot of people don't tend to talk about the struggles that they go through every day. You kind of mask that off but that is impressive to say, I'm going to be a writer and help people write. But I do have these challenges every day that I face. That is amazing.
Yep. So I think if I can do it, you can do it.
Absolutely.
That's my feeling.
Yes, you're definitely the one who can tell us that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do it. Is there a defining moment? Because you were a writer, I've seen your books. They're great, because I work with children, so I'm always excited when I see children's books. But is there a defining moment where you knew that you needed to go further than just writing, that you just wanted to help people, coach them and mentor them through and getting their books done?
So it's kind of strange when you're in the writing world, especially the children's writer world. You need to be with other writers. You need to get feedback, and you need to get other people's opinions on what you've written. But on the other hand, we like to be quiet and not be in a group, and we like to it's kind of a weird thing. So over the years, I've kind of learned how to work with my writer friends on coaching them through their process and encouraging them. And on the other hand, people who are not writers, when they find out that I'm a writer, they always tell me, oh, I want to write a book. Oh, I have a book idea. Oh, I just wrote a book, but I don't know what to do with it. And so kind of from those two passions, they just kind of melded. And I just started telling people, well, if you're serious, I can help you. And you don't have to be a writer. I can teach you everything I know and help you through the process. So, and I just love seeing people's eyes light up and get excited when my story can actually be a story. you
Yeah.
know? Yeah, it's kind of fun.
It is. And I think it's
Yeah.
great because we mentioned that before we were recording, but I've been sitting on my book for a little over a year. It's done. It took forever to get it done. Well,
Yeah.
no, once I started writing, it was quick. It took forever to decide to get it done. And
Mm-hmm.
then once it was done, and that kind of leads into my next question, but once it was done, all these other inner struggles started popping up. It was like, am I
Mm-hmm.
really going to be doing this? So it goes beyond just writing the book. Can you kind of tell us a little bit, as a writer, because you've lived through it,
Mm-hmm.
and now as a coach and mentor, are there, you talk about unleashing your inner writer. What are some of the struggles as a writer that you could go through that nobody talks about? Can you share that with us a little
Oh
bit?
boy, there's so many.
There's so many, right?
Well, it's different for every person, but the main struggles, the very first struggle is people have is just getting started. Like you just said, I had the
Yeah.
idea, but I didn't do it. I just sat on it because it's like they don't know where to start. They don't know how to start. They don't know if it's any good. So they stop themselves immediately from even starting. Another struggle is my writing any good? Is somebody going to steal my idea?
Right.
I hear these things all the time. What if I get stuck? That's a big struggle that people have of getting stuck. And also, I think once you've got the book finished, is letting it go and letting other people give you feedback, letting other people see your work. Because when you're writing, you're kind of writing for yourself. You're writing in this vacuum world where nobody's looking at what you're reading, but your audience needs to be connected to your work and needs to understand it, no matter what type of book it is. If it's kids, if it's a nonfiction book, if it's cookbook, whatever. So you have to actually let it go and have a thick skin. This is the hard part of people telling you what they like and what they don't like, and then being able to adjust from that or just move on from that. But yeah, that's the hard part.
It really,
because it's your baby. You're like, wait, I wrote that. You don't like it, or you didn't understand. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And I get stuck with that. Who am I to take that, to bring, that imposter syndrome where, or I reread it and I just want to change it. And I keep changing it. And the mentor, the coach that I had at the time was just like, that'll be your next book. Just get this one out. That'll be your next book. So I love how you said that. Yeah, to get it started. It's one thing, but to let it go. I love how you said that. To
let it go and listen to valuable advice that is. I always tell people to get advice not from your family, not from your friends, but find people who are same level of writing or higher level of writing than you, and you get advice from them, and more than one, because sometimes people have a different viewpoint than you about writing. So get a couple people and see if they all hear this, if they all say the same thing, then you have a problem. If not, it's just a matter of opinion, and you just go on. But you got to have a thick skin and not take it personally.
Yeah, that is a big one. Yeah, that is a very big one.
And that's hard.
You pour your heart and soul into it, so you do take it personally, and it's important not to. I love that.
Because then after that, if you're going traditional publishing, then you have to deal with all the rejections from agents and publishers, and then once your book is published, you may get bad reviews. So you have to just be able to suck it up.
Suck it up and let it go.
Suck it up and let it go. It's not personal. It's not you.
That should be the next book, right?
Yeah.
Just suck it up and let it go.
Suck it up, Buttercup. That's my next book. Yeah.
Love it. I wanted to ask you, because that's the advice that I had gotten when I'd been thinking about writing this book for a bit, and couldn't get it started, didn't know how. And the person had told me, just write the word "the." So I didn't understand. So I wrote "the," and then he just said, congratulations, you just started your book, just get it done. So
Oh, wow. Yeah.
yeah. So it was that easy. So I was just wondering from your experience, what is the one thing that somebody could do today to say, I'll get started? This is one little thing, one little habit they can change, one little thing, the action that they can do to say, I'm moving towards writing my book today. Is there anything that
Yeah,
you can recommend?
there's a couple things because I love helping people get started because that's the hardest part. First of all, you don't have to start with the beginning of your book. That's one thing I tell people.
Oh,
Write the last chapter, write the middle. You don't have to start with the beginning. Start, if you have an idea in your head and it's the end of your book, then write that because that'll get you going and that gives you some place to work towards. Don't know where to start yet? You have characters. I always say take your main character and create a journal as your main character. Be that main character and just write at the end of the day, like for 10 minutes by hand as your character in your character's voice. And little things will pop up in there that will make it into your story. It gets you into the personality of your characters. And also with writing the word the, it sounds stupid to say just start writing because all the books I've written, the first 10 pages have never made it into the final book anyway. So sitting there fussing and fighting over with your first words, it doesn't really matter because you're probably going to toss them out. Just being realistic with you. It's not like the movies where somebody sits down and they write their book and like they have the best first line. That never happens. It usually happens like on page 10, once you've gotten into the flow and you're like, okay. And then you just, those 10 pages. So those are 3 things. And just writing every day in a journal by hand, I say, free writing for just 10 minutes, whatever comes into your head, using a writing prompt or using your book,
That's amazing.
Just take deep breaths and relax, it's, don't worry about it. It's going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I like that.
Yeah.
Because somebody was to start or finish, or you think you have to finish right away, but you can really work it.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You mentioned something very important, and I'm actually I was guilty of that, not believing in getting a coach or a mentor. It's like I can do this on my own. Nobody would understand, but and nobody, you don't see it as an investment at the time. But what would be your, I guess it would be just for people who are not convinced that a coach or a mentor would be the way to go. What would your advice be on that, and how do coaches help when it comes to writing their book?
It's funny because I was writing a list down this morning, not knowing you were going to ask this question of, I kind of call myself a concierge. Is like, how can I help somebody? What are the most common things people come to me for? The one thing is I work with a lot of people who've already spent a lot of money and time on their books. And I already have all that knowledge. I could have guided them on their path before they even started their journey and given them the possibilities of which direction they could go. And then they could choose their path because it's kind of like, you don't know the questions to ask because you've never been there before, right? So you just kind of stumble around. You don't know what to ask. I know the different paths. So that's one thing is I can help people on that journey save their time and their money before they even get started. A writing coach or book concierge or can help you in those times of doubt and deep struggle because it's going to happen. You're going to get to a spot where you're frustrated with your work, where you're unsure of yourself. You don't know which way to turn. It's really a therapy. It's really like a therapist. I'm like, that's what I do with my clients. They have my text. We could talk right away. Help me. Having a different viewpoint, an experienced person with different viewpoints can really help you to get back on that path and travel correctly, because you don't want to go down this whole long road and spend 3 months on something and then like, oh my gosh, I just wasted all that time. I've seen it all. I've heard it all. I've already been through it. So that's why I think the coaching is valuable. I've like I said, I've got this wealth of knowledge up here. That's going to take somebody who's just starting out the same amount of time that it took me to get it. So why not take advantage of that?
That's right.
Especially if you're not a writer and you just want to write one book.
That's right.
Or it's for your business, or you just have a book idea and you want to get it done. That's the perfect reason to use a coach.
Yeah. And I see it as well as all that time and energy you'd be wasting trying to figure it out. You need somebody who has the resources. And in my case, it was just somebody to give me that swift kick in the behind.
Exactly.
And, just call me out on my stories to say excuses and everything, and say, no, I'm not taking it. A family member or friend would kind of yield to that and say, oh, it's okay,
Exactly.
She'll be like, no, you got this. You're doing
right.
it.
Like if you were trying to become a public speaker, or you were going to be a better football player or something, would you ask your best friend or your mom to help you?
Right.
Well, you might, but she's probably not going to help you excel in that area unless she's a public speaker and she plays football. So you've got to use a coach or somebody who's got that experience and that knowledge, and is actually has your back, whether you like to hear it or not.
I'm so sorry. I muted myself.
I was like, she's talking, but I don't hear anything.
No, and then I'll explain to the listeners, my neighbor this morning decided he's cutting down his tree. So there's a lot of chainsaws in the background. So I mute myself once in a while when it gets very loud, and I forgot to unmute myself. But you were talking, what I was saying when nobody could hear me was that you have this write your book in 30-day program, which I absolutely love, because then you have a time frame. It's just like, I got this, you kind of sort your thoughts. So can you talk to us a little bit about that program and how it
Sure. Works? It's a little scary. Some people write a book in 30 days. That's insane. But actually I've done it 5 times. And right now is National Novel Writing Month, which is every November. So this is how I got the idea of teaching people this process that I developed after doing it 5 times. And because if you just sit down and write a book like NaNoWriMo is, you just sit down and write it. At the end, you have a mess. You have a draft that's a big mess. And if you're not a writer, that's overwhelming as well, because you're like, I want to write a book, but this is a mess. So I developed a way to work with my clients to get them all set up. And then the 30-day process, it's like go. And then at the end, I work with them on their next path of where they're going to go with publication or editing or critique partners or whichever way they want to go. But the main idea behind the 30-day process is a book should be written in a season. And that's 1 to 3 months. And that's not just me saying that. That is Stephen King says that. And I've seen other writers say that. So what happens is your creative process is, it's not short, but if you're starting to write something and then you have to stop and then you pick it up again a month later, your mind has to go back to where it was a month ago. And chances are you're not in the same frame of mind. You're not in the same emotional state. And so your creativity is going to be a little different.
Right.
So I don't know how you wrote your book, but I'm sure if you did it over time, you probably experienced that when you sat back down, you had to go back over and read what you were writing and try and get back in that space again. I've worked with people who, before they worked with me, they spent 6 years on a book, and then we finished it in 30 days. And it was really like, why am I letting this drag on? Why am I pulling this along? And, it's a heavy burden. It's a weight because I want to finish it. But if you understand how that creative process works, and once you get into it, it's like a trance and you can get it done. And at the end of 30 days, you've got that book and it's ready to go on whatever path you decided to at the beginning.
Yeah. that's great. I didn't know about the season one, but I remember when I did write my book, it was all at once. But when it was rereading time, when I kind of let it go cold for a little bit,
yeah,
and I went back to it and started rereading. That's where I wanted to change everything because I was not in that same state of mind. I love.
Yeah. And that's part of the process when I'm working with people is we do a nice framework beforehand. So they have a guideline. They're not just writing blindly, and they have a nice guideline to go along with and keeps them on track. Because when you're writing, sometimes things happen and you decide to go this way or go to the right or go to the left, and you swerve.
Yeah, it's the swerving part.
Yeah, the swerve. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's wonderful, and you have that accessible. I'll put in the information a little bit later.
Yeah.
But I think it's wonderful to mention because sometimes you just need that time frame. So how I'm getting.
Yeah.
You find other things to do.
Yeah, and that's not my only way I work with people, but that's my one main way. So it's the fun way.
Yeah, I like that. The fun way.
The fun way. Well, I feel like get it done, right?
Yeah.
We're busy. Your story needs to be told. And if you just keep sitting on it, it's not going to get told. And it's never going to get out there.
Yeah. No, you're right. That's I love that. It's a lot of great advice you're giving us today. I'm going to move it just along a little
Okay.
bit. Would you mind sharing something that no one knows about? I mean, you shared quite a bit in the beginning with your upbringing, but is there anything?
I can't tell. I can't tell all my secrets, but there's some things that have to remain quiet.
That's right.
Well, let's see. I'm very crafty. I have a lot of plants, but I think everybody knows that. I am one of 7 children. I used to be able to do the splits. I need to get back into that stretching, and I could probably do them again.
Yeah. I actually gave
That's about
it. Challenge. Yeah, that's one of my challenges for the years to
do the splits. I don't know why. It's like I want to be a cheerleader all of a sudden, but I think I can. I think I can do it.
I used to be a dancer where it was just like you just did it.
Oh yeah.
You never actually trained because it started young, but now I realize that I'm not young.
No,
anymore.
you gotta stretch. Yep.
Need a little stretch.
Yeah. So I don't really think I have any secrets,
Yeah. Well, that's okay.
Or things that people don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of fun. I like to change it up a little bit. And is there any advice that you wish you would have had earlier that would have made your life so much easier when you were younger?
Well, if I hadn't grown up in a cult, things would have been much easier because education was not pressed on me. Neither was creativity. So I think early on, if I had been given that Sally has ADHD, she thinks a little differently than most people, and been encouraged, in that way, life would have been much different. I would have been a lot less harder on myself because I was always comparing myself to everybody else.
Yeah. And that's something that a lot of people do.
Yeah. I got mostly negative feedback. I didn't get any good feedback. So that would be my advice. Positive feedback.
Yeah. And I think that must help you in your coaching business as well, where it's just like you would encourage people positively.
Yeah.
And a positive, because you know what it's like when you're only getting things.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Not like something that...
I mean, they might not like what I have to say. I do the sandwich, the sandwich method, something nice. Okay, now this is crappy. Okay, now.
Right. There's a punch in the
But you're a really good person. I can see your creativity. I love where you're going.
That's right. The best way to do it. Yeah. Is there anything new coming up for you? Is there any new projects, any new programs that are on the way that you could share?
Well, yes. I did mention my concierge coaching. I've got 2 things. So the concierge coaching, which is an hourly thing, which is basically you have me in your back pocket. I liken it to the mental health care stuff you can buy now, Better Health, where you can just buy me for 3 hours, and then when you need me, I'm there. And then I have a literary agent now. So her and I are working on my next middle grade book, which is middle grade horror, because I love Stephen King. And it's set during Y2K. So kids don't know what Y2K is. So it's going to be fun. So yeah, so that hopefully next year I have something positive to say about that. So
that's exciting. And
yeah, it's fun.
I remember when my niece and nephews were a little younger, they loved it. They kept asking me, what kind of horror stories would you tell each other when you were younger? And I couldn't remember any of them. So I loved
None of them. and I'm going to point out that this book, because if you're going to be a writer, I got the idea from taking a walk and I saw some words on a sidewalk that some kids had written. And I took those words. It was, "Today is your last day as a human." I took those words and wrote a whole novel around it.
Wow.
So just, if you let your mind wander and you just have that time where you just aren't thinking about work, kids, how terrible you are as a person, whatever that we do to ourselves, right?
Right.
These ideas will pop into your head. They don't have to be a book. They can be a short story,
Yeah. I like that.
Or a song.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like that. And write it down when the idea comes.
Yeah, I did it right in my phone right away.
Yeah, because I have a couple of times I've woken up from a dream. Oh, this would be and I'm like, I'll just remember it when I wake up in the morning, but I forget after. So I like that.
Yeah.
I do have a question for you, which I ask everybody, and I didn't tell you this.
Okay.
But there was a little girl who interviewed me for a school, but she was interviewing me. Adults for a school project, and she was asking this question that everybody asked children, but so she figured it was a question to ask, but nobody would answer, and she'd get frustrated. So her mother just said, well, maybe you should just not ask that question. And
she
told her, she goes, no, somebody's gonna get it. So she kept asking. When she asked me, I answered her, and she was all happy. She turned around, she's like, see, Mom, I told you somebody would get
it.
You. So this is the question: what would you like to be when you grow up?
Oh, what would I like to be when I grow up? Well, I would like to be somebody who's traveling around the country in an RV and writing and meeting all kinds of interesting people and seeing all different places and just experiencing all different kinds of cultures. That'd be my grown-up life.
That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
And it's so important to keep having those inspirations and dreams and goals. I think that's great.
I don't think I'm ever going to grow up. That's a great question.
I know. Yeah. I always say I'm a child trapped in an older lady's body. Yeah. I think that's wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing that one, because I think it's great. That's I think a lot of people would have that dream too. Just get away.
I'm almost there. I got the writing part.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like that. Now, before we wrap up, how can people reach you or follow you or get more information about your program? I will add that in the comments.
Oh, okay. The easiest way to find me is my name. SallyLotz.com is my website. And on there, I have all my programs. I have my books. I have free consultations, and that's the easiest way. And my social media links are on there as well.
Okay. That's wonderful. So I'll add that to it.
Yeah. Keep it simple. Keep it simple is my philosophy.
I like that. Yes. It does get complicated, especially in the digital world.
Mm-hmm.
It could get very complicated. Well, thank you so much, Sally. I just enjoyed talking to you. I could talk to you all day.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I just talked to somebody last week. She goes, you like talking to strangers, don't you? I go, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a weirdo.
I love it. Oh, no, it's great. It's my default. I love it. We're not weirdos. We just love to hear.
I don't mean it in a bad way. It's a good way.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I think it's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your story and giving us some inspiration to get started. Anybody?
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Who's got a baby in them, there's a book in them to get the baby out. I think is wonderful. And I'll make sure that add the links so people can follow you and get more information or join your 30-day program. I think that'd be great too.
That would be awesome. I would love that.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And for everybody who is listening or watching, depending on which platform you're on, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow. And don't forget to have a look at the Self-Esteem Doctor Online Academy as well. I'll add the link so you can have a look at the wonderful resources that Dr. Simone and Alicia has on helping your children develop a great self-confidence, self-esteem. So thank you again. And until then, stay safe, stay awesome, and we'll talk soon.